The Nine of Wands, Strength, has a strong influence of the moon upon it, something that we can see quite prominently upon this Thoth card. On the Rider-Waite deck we can see something quite different. Our character appears to have come through a battle or a conflict of some kind, and they've got some damage to them, such as you can see through this bandage upon their head. And they are looking around quite cautiously at the other wands, almost as if they could attack them at any moment. And yet they are still holding their own wand and pushing forwards, finding the strength inside to carry on upon this journey. On the Tree of Life, this card is firmly planted within Yesod, of which is the 9th Sephiroth on the Tree of Life, and is ruled by the moon, and so we're starting to see the moon coming into this card already. Now, having a look at Yesod here on the Tree of Life, we can see that above it is Hod and Netzach. And so Hod is our intellect, our intellectual mind, and Netzach is our emotional mind. And being in Yesod says that we have become free from the bias or the influence of these Sephiroth above us. And so that means that essentially with Hod, the intellect, we have recognised the ego for what it is, the I am, and the desire to want everything now, so to speak. And the emotion, or Netzach, is the emotional influence on things, the desire or the pull towards wanting things to be in a certain way, all connected with our sense of self and our ego within our physical bodies. And we've risen above that in Yesod, we've come away from it, and we've started to become aware of the spiritual orders of being, of which exist all around us, what we may call the astral plane. And perhaps we've come to peace with that, recognising that things have their own way of working out, and we have to have the strength or the endurance to ride these things out and allow them to happen in their own time. And so on the card itself, we can see in the centre the most dominant wand upon this has upon it a sun on the top and a moon on the bottom. And so the sun on the Tree of Life is Tifereth, such as we've seen before, that very strong physical light energy, and the moon is going to be, as we've just spoken, Yesod on the moon at the bottom. It's also the subconscious mind. The moon is the world of dreams and the world of an emotional guidance system, so not simply an emotion of I want something, but an emotion of which dwells within our heart centre, and like a sat-nav guides us through life. We feel something might be the right way to go or something might be the wrong way to go, and that influence there of our soul guidance within our whole lives. And so it could represent perhaps our true will in Thelema, which is our reason for incarnation. And so it could be hidden talents that have yet to awaken within us are starting to manifest, and we're starting to get hints, things which could lead us down certain paths and could have all sorts of benefits for us there. The joining of them together, of course, is a sun and a moon combination, and so it's a masculine and feminine, a god and goddess combination, as well as the adjoining of the consciousness and the unconsciousness, so the as above, so below, and that femifestation and manifestation of which we've spoken about before, where an item or an object around us starts as a thought, starts merely as an image in a mind, and through all of the things coming together in the universe is eventually manifested into a physical form of that thought. And we can see that in the moon image upon the card, of which has the sigil of Sagittarius within it. And so it's suggesting that the arrow here of Sagittarius is piercing the moon. It's going deep into our subconscious mind, and it's saying, here is a channel into your subconscious. Grab hold of that willpower and use that willpower to find those strengths, find those talents, and go towards them and seek them out, because that is where you're going to find your strength to actually come through these situations. And that is why, if we look at the actual sun image on the top of the card, we can see that so there's 18 rays in total, but they are split into two designs of 9 rays each, and so 9 of course is the influence of the moon and Yesod yet again, and the first 9 are quite straight looking sunbeams, and the second 9 are quite wavy looking sunbeams, and so this is the influence of that moon and of that piercing and using of the willpower upon it. We're starting to make things move by putting our willpower into it. We can actually see here magic starting to occur, and magic of course is described by Crowley as the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. And so we're starting to make things move, and unlike some of the previous cards where it happens straight away in an instant, this type of change is going to take time. We have to wait for everything to start joining up and coming together before things actually come into manifestation, and so we need that strength and that endurance to allow them to happen. The arrows themselves are actually red, and so we can see all these arrows, which of course are Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is a fire sign, and more importantly is a mutable sign, so it's a mutable fire, which means that the fire traits within this Sagittarius element spread out and flow, and therefore are subject to change and different movements, like what we've seen with the sun image again. And so this is actually why it's said in contemporary astrology that Sagittarians have this wanderlust, and they like to go out and find a quest for adventure, and they may be quite restless if things stay the same and want to go and find new knowledge and new adventures and so on. And so their fire, their spark is mutable and seeks out and goes with the flow of change. The arrows upon this card of course are adorned with that strong symbol of the moon, and so we have here 9 moons in total upon the arrows. There are 8 moons upon the tips of the arrows, and the where the actual arrowhead would be are the moons as well. And so this is Yesod, that 9th Sephiroth of the Tree of Life, and something of its form and function upon the tree. So if you imagine we fired one of these arrows, or just fired any arrow, say across a field, it flies through the air and comes and sticks into the ground, and so it penetrates the earth and the earth receives the arrow. And so here on the Tree of Life we can see this transformed into a type of sexual alchemy and a type of process of manifestation. And so Yesod collects the forces of the Sephiroth above it, these vital forces of life and of the universe, and channels them downwards into Malkuth below it. So Malkuth is kingdom and the physical world. And so Yesod's gathering all that seed of life and is channeling it and pressing it into the earth. And so in that respect, Yesod here is a masculine energy of which channels, and Malkuth is a feminine Mother Earth energy of which receives those seeds of life and nurtures them, and eventually gives birth into the green earth and the oceans and the mountains, and of course us ourselves. It gives birth to life and that origin of life, and therefore Malkuth, which is of course the earth itself, interacts with divinity above it because it has divinity in it. And so we have once again our microcosm and macrocosm joined together, as above so below. To understand one is to understand the other. It's quite interesting here as well that we can see that happening upon the card. So the red arrows are that Sagittarius fire energy, and yet through the centre of the central wand we can see this channel of yellow actually coming through the middle of them here. And so that is that alchemical process of which we've just spoken about. We have the energy of the sun and the moon mixed together, and if we imagine that yellow sunbeam as coming down from that conscious into that subconscious, or coming down from Yesod into Malkuth and mixing together in the middle, and there we have that secret of the manifestation. And indeed behind it we can see 10 flames, and so the 10 flames are 2 very interesting things put together. Firstly, they're all the 10 Sephiroth, the 10 Sephiroth on the Tree of Life, the universe itself. And they also refer to the 10th Sephiroth, which is Malkuth, and so we have the physical world there in the background of the card. And on the actual card itself, this suggests that once this willpower has completed its process, we're actually going to see those results in the physical world. It's not just something that happens in an unmanifested void. It's actually going to have some type of results in some way, although it can take time to show itself in the physical world. It has to gather all of these other elements of the universe and channel them in to the earth, and then the earth has to nurture it and give birth to it, and that's your process of magic, or your process of manifestation. And we have to have the strength and the determination to allow this to happen. We can't just say, oh, I want to manifest whatever it is, and expect it to be waiting outside the door for us in a minute. We have to have the endurance to allow the universe to gather its forces together and allow it to happen. It's the art of allowing, and so to draw this card is saying that you have to stand your ground, and sometimes things are going to look almost as if they're not working out. There's going to be situations where you think, how am I going to get through this? And this card's saying, well, now's the time to trust in that willpower, to find those latent talents and those things of which drive you forward, and wear them as your armour upon this battlefield, if you like, and push forward. Find that strength deep within yourself, perhaps even a strength that you didn't know that you would even have. And by doing that, it will allow you to gather up balance and peace and harmony, so that when all these things are channeled through, you will have overcome the challenge, you will have come out at the other side, and all of that seed of life will have been born into something wonderful, such as the sun coming out after the storm, such as us coming out of a time of doubt and a time of torment perhaps, and then having a great pride in having reached our goal and having finally seen things come into fruition.